Have you ever had that feeling where you know you're awake, but you're absolutely sure you must be dreaming? I always thought that was just a saying, but that was before I spent a night in a hotel that had a floor that just wasn't there. The trip itself was nothing special. Another Tuesday, another flight, another blandly corporate hotel for a 2-day conference. It was one of those places you've seen 100 times, all polished chrome, beige walls, and abstract art that manages to say absolutely nothing. My name is Mark, and this was just my routine. Check-in was fine. The guy at the front desk barely looked up from his screen as he handed me a keycard. Room 714. I nodded, grabbed my rollerboard, and headed for the elevators. Inside the elevator, I went to press the button for my floor, but my finger just hovered over the panel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. There was no 7. I scanned the buttons again, thinking I'd missed it. Nope, it was just gone. Now, I know hotels skipping the 13th floor is a common thing because of superstition. According to the Otis Elevator Company, something like 85% of high-rise buildings with their elevators just don't label a 13th floor. But 7? Nobody's afraid of the number 7. It was just missing. A simple manufacturing error, I told myself. Annoying, but not impossible. So I dragged my suitcase back to the front desk. A clerk seemed irritated that I was bothering him again. The button for the 7th floor is missing, I explained. He still didn't make eye contact. Oh, right, he mumbled. That panel's busted. Just take the service stairs at the end of the hall. It'll get you there. He waved me off, his eyes already glued back to his monitor. Reluctantly, I found the door. It was heavy, completely unmarked, and opened into a concrete stairwell that was noticeably colder. The air was different, stale and still. The whole polished facade of the hotel was gone, replaced by raw, ugly functionality. It felt like stepping backstage into a place guests were never meant to see. With a sigh, I started climbing. The door to the 7th floor opened into silence. I don't mean the quiet hum of a hotel. I mean a deep, oppressive void of sound. The hallway in front of me was long and perfectly straight, with a faded, generic carpet. The lights gave off this pale, sickly yellow glow. I found my room, 714, and slid the keycard in. It clicked open. But as I pushed the door, I made the mistake of glancing down the hall. It just kept going, stretching into a dim, vanishing point. And then I saw it. Further down, another door was labeled 714, and another one after that. The numbers were repeating. My stomach tightened. This didn't feel like a weird architectural choice anymore. It felt fundamentally wrong. I stepped inside my room. It was spotless, sterile. But my suitcase, the one I had just been dragging, was already at the foot of the bed. It was open, and my clothes were neatly folded inside. I hadn't done that. A cold dread washed over me. That's when I heard it. A soft, shuffling sound, like quiet footsteps. But it wasn't coming from the hall or the room next door. It sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. I scrambled to the window, desperate to see the city, to ground myself in reality, but there was nothing. Just a flat, impenetrable blackness, like looking into deep space. No lights, no streets, nothing. In a full-blown panic, I threw the door open and looked back down the hall. At the far end, a figure stood there, a tall man in a dark, old-fashioned suit, perfectly still. I blinked just for a second, and he was gone. What would you do? Would you stay, or would you run? Let me know in the comments. If stories that dig into these unsettling kinds of spaces are your thing, think about subscribing for more that explores the strange and unexplained. I didn't stick around to see if he'd come back. I ran. I bolted for the stairwell, tumbling down the concrete steps until I burst back out into the bright, normal lobby. I was panting, a complete mess. I stumbled to the front desk and demanded to see the manager. A calm, professional woman appeared. I tried to explain everything: the bizarre hallway, the repeating numbers, the man. She listened with a patient look, then typed my name into her computer. Her expression shifted to polite confusion. "Sir," she said slowly, "I do have you in our system, but you're in room 314. I told her she was wrong, that I had the key for 714 right here. "That's not possible," she continued, her voice firm but not unkind. "This hotel only has 6 floors. To prove it, she turned her monitor toward me. There it was. My name, room 314. Then she pulled up the security footage. It showed me getting my key, going into the elevator, and getting out on the 3rd floor. I watched myself walk down a perfectly normal hallway and enter room 314. But then the manager frowned. She clicked a few more times, switching to what looked like an older, archived system. "That's odd," she muttered. An old timestamp popped up in the corner, October 23rd, 1993, and on that screen was me. I was standing in that same long yellow hallway I had just run from, my face pale with terror. I looked around frantically for a few seconds, and then I just vanished from the frame. Of course, this story is a work of fiction, built on our fears of places that feel wrong, places that seem to play by rules we don't understand. There's no proof of hotels with impossible floors or security cameras that can see into the past. But it makes you wonder, what was that floor? A ghost? A glitch in time? I never went back to find out. Some doors are best left unopened. It was 3:13 a.m. on my last night. The phone in empty room 912 had been ringing for 10 minutes straight. Then, on the security monitor, I saw something moving inside. That S when I finally understood the one rule I'd been given 4 years ago. Never, ever assign anyone to that room. 4 years ago, I took a job as a night auditor at the Grand Regent Hotel. From midnight to 8 a.m., the entire hotel was my own silent castle. I loved the peace, the solitude. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong, because one of its rooms was waiting. My trainer, Stan, gave me the unofficial rule on my first week. He pointed a thick finger at the reservation screen. "Room 912, he said, his voice low. "It's permanently out of service. Don't even think about it. Never book it. Ever." He mumbled something about a system glitch and changed the subject. It was a big hotel, and for the first year, I completely forgot about the dead room. Then came the calls. The first one was at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. The switchboard lit up. Room 912. I picked it up, expecting a prank. All I heard was static and a faint, wet whisper just before the line cut out. I checked the hall camera. The hallway outside 912 was completely empty. 2 weeks later, it happened again. This time, a soft thump, thump, like someone was knocking from inside the phone. The system logs were clear. The room was vacant and had been for years. Months later, a new day shift clerk made a mistake. A big one. He gave a family the key to room 912. Around 1 in the morning, the father sprinted to my desk, his face pale and his hands shaking. He said he heard frantic knocking coming from inside the headboard of the bed. At the same time, his wife saw a message appear in the fog of the bathroom mirror. "Get out." I didn't ask any questions. I moved them to the penthouse suite immediately. When security and I went to check the room, it was pristine. Not a thing was out of place. But there was a smell. Faint, but sharp. Coppery, like old blood. If you find this story chilling, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. Now, back to when my job turned into a full-blown obsession. After that night, I couldn't stop watching the 9th floor camera. Most nights, it was just flickering lights and shadows, playing tricks on my eyes. But then one night, the feed glitched. It blinked. And for less than a second, the camera view wasn't the hallway anymore. It was the inside of room 912. But it didn't look like a hotel room. It looked like an old, sterile hospital room. There was a man on a metal frame bed, and he was convulsing, his mouth wide open in a silent scream. And just as quickly, the feed snapped back to the empty hallway. The glitch left no trace on the recorded tape. I thought I was losing my mind. The next day, I put in my 2 weeks' notice. It was my last shift. 3:13 a.m. The phone from room 912 started ringing. I just stared at the blinking light, refusing to answer. On the monitor, the light in the hallway outside the room was strobing erratically. Then the feed switched again, just like before. It showed the inside of room 912, but this time it was destroyed. The furniture was flipped over, the mattress was torn, and the mirror was shattered. And in the corner of the room, a dark figure just stood there, motionless. I snapped. I ran from the desk, broke the lock on the manager's records room, and found the file. Incident Report Room 912. The report detailed the death of a guest 15 years prior. The staff had to force the door open, only to find the room in total chaos, with deep scratches on the inside of the door. The official cause of death was listed as inconclusive. I dropped the file and walked straight out of the hotel. I didn't even clock out. I just left. Was he trying to get out? Or was he trying to keep something else from getting in? I still don't know. Sometimes I get calls from a blocked number. When I answer, all I hear is static, and a phone somewhere far away still ringing. Ever had that creepy feeling that someone's watching you? I had that feeling from 200 miles away. I was driving home, thinking my business trip was over, when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from my hotel's app. Your room service has arrived. That's weird, I thought. I checked out this morning. I had the receipt to prove it. But there it was, a fresh charge on my account. Someone was in my old room, enjoying a meal on my dime. Who were they, and how did they get in? Let's rewind a bit. The morning started out completely normal. I was staying at this pretty nice modern hotel, room 405. I packed my bags, went down to the front desk, and did the whole checkout routine. The clerk was friendly, confirmed everything was settled, and I returned my key cards. A few minutes later, as I was pulling out of the parking garage, an email hit my inbox, my final bill. 0 balance. Everything paid up, everything settled. I put the hotel in my rearview mirror, literally and figuratively, and started the long drive home. The trip was over, or so I thought. 3 hours into my drive, I was somewhere in the middle of nowhere, listening to a podcast, when my phone lit up with that fateful notification. It wasn't just a simple hello from the hotel app. It was a charge. An $87 charge for a burger and a bottle of wine. At first, I thought it must be a mistake, some kind of system glitch. Maybe they accidentally sent the notification to the wrong guest. But when I clicked on it, my blood ran cold. The charge was linked directly to my account, my name, my credit card on file. This wasn't a glitch. As far as the hotel was concerned, I was still upstairs in room 405, having a nice, leisurely dinner. The problem was, I was hundreds of miles away, and my room key was deactivated. So, who was in there? How did they get in? And why were they pretending to be me? My mind started racing through all the worst-case scenarios. I immediately pulled over at the next rest stop, my heart pounding. I fumbled with my phone to find the hotel's number. When the front desk clerk answered, I tried to stay calm. "Hi, my name is Alex. I was in room 405. I checked out this morning, but I just got a room service charge. The clerk's response was polite, but utterly chilling. "Let me check for you, sir." Sir, our system shows you are still checked in to room 405. I could feel the frustration building. "No, that's impossible," I said. "I'm on the highway, hours away from the city. I have the checkout receipt right here in my email." Then she asked the question that made me question my own sanity. In the calmest, most measured voice, she asked, "Are you sure you checked out, sir?" It was surreal. Her computer screen held more authority than my actual physical reality. I wasn't just arguing about an incorrect bill anymore. I was arguing for my own existence outside the walls of that hotel. At that point, I knew talking to the clerk was a dead end. This was way above her pay grade. "I need to speak to a manager. Right now," I demanded, my voice getting louder. "There is a stranger in my former room, using my name and charging things to my card. You need to send security to room 405 immediately." I think the urgency in my voice finally got through to her. She transferred me to the hotel manager. I explained the whole crazy situation again. He sounded skeptical at first, but agreed something wasn't right. "Okay, sir, please stay on the line. I'm dispatching security to the room right now to verify." He put me on hold. The silence that followed was agonizing. Every second felt like an hour. I sat in my car at that lonely rest stop, just staring at the phone, waiting. What were they going to find? A simple mistake? Or something much, much worse? My imagination was running wild. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the manager came back on the line. His voice was completely different. The calm, professional tone was gone, replaced by one that was shaken, almost breathless. "Sir, you were right," he said. "We sent security to the room. There was a man inside." My heart skipped a beat. "He gave security your name when they questioned him." It was an inside job. It turns out, one of the front desk clerks had noticed my checkout had glitched in their system. The room still showed as occupied, but instead of fixing the error and officially checking me out, he saw an opportunity. He called an accomplice, told him the room was free, and sold him a freshly programmed key card for cash. This stranger wasn't just some random person who found a lost key. He was an invited guest, and the hotel staff had handed him the keys to my identity. The hotel management was mortified, as you can imagine. The security breach was a nightmare for them. They immediately fired the clerk and his supervisor, who should have caught the error. They cooperated fully with the police, who arrested both of the employees involved. Of course, they reversed the fraudulent charge and wiped my entire bill for the stay, offering me a bunch of free nights as an apology. But the damage was done. It was at about the $87. It was the terrifying realization of how fragile our security really is. A locked door, a deactivated key. None of it matters when you can't trust the people who hold all the master keys. The experience left me with a healthy dose of paranoia. Now, I never just drop my keys and leave. I wait in the lobby until the final zero-balance receipt is in my hand. I double-check my credit card statements for days after a trip. Sometimes, I even call the hotel a few hours after I've left, just to confirm their system shows me as checked out. It probably sounds a little crazy, a little over the top, but I'd rather sound crazy to a hotel clerk than get a bill for a stranger-ass dinner party in my old room. So that's my story. It's a good reminder to always be vigilant. What about you? Have you ever had a creepy or bizarre hotel experience? I'd love to hear about it. Drop your stories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. Stay safe out there.